So in order to create this user object for authenticating, what we are going to use is the authenticator provided by Firebase. So we say auth dot, and I'll say auth, we initialize our authenticator, and then we ask it to create user, and then we have different options. So currently we want to create a user with email or password, and then it has a completion block as well. So this is the minimum information Firebase user should have, which is an email address and a password in order to register. The remaining information that we have here passing to our function, which is our function that we are creating, while this function here is provided by Firebase. So the remaining things will be used in order to create our own object in the database, which is the database here. But for the authenticating the user, we only need an email address and a password. So first we need to authenticate the user in order to get the user ID, and then we can create our user object. So let's pass our email here. With email, we just say email, which is the variable here, and password is our password, which is the variable here. And completion, you just hit enter on it. It gives you two things in return. Auth data result object and an error object. So let's give them a name. I'm going to call them the same as they are, auth data and an error. Okay, and the first thing you always want to check if the error is nil or no. So since we have this completion and we are passing an error to it, I can call that completion, and I can give the completion this error object. So if it's nil, it will just tell, listen, we have finished authenticating the user. Here is the result. So we inform whoever is calling this function. And then here we can do the rest of the thing. We just want to have this callback to notify our register user function, whoever is calling this function. So if I go to my register function here, you remember before when I ran the code, this part callback didn't print out because we didn't call this completion at all and didn't inform us the caller function here. But if I run the application now, you will see that this will print. Let me just print it here again. Register, and let's also put a date here so we can see how long it takes actually to register the user. And here I'm going to tell print finished register with error, and let's pass our error here. And also we can say print another date to see when it's printed. And also going to my register, I can say callback here, and this is gonna print as well. So let's run our application again. And let's try to register. I'm going to clean this console area so you can see what's going on. You can do it by clicking the delete button at the bottom. If I just provide dummy things here, and let me clean this as well. And if I try to register, you can see registering, and then it prints out the date and then says finish register with error. And then it gives us an error because our email address is badly formatted. As you can see, it prints out here. So Firebase actually looks into the format of your email address, so you don't have to do it yourself, and says, hey, this is not a proper email address, so we cannot register the user. And also what is important here, you can see this part, it prints out. So if you look at it, the registering started in 38 seconds and the callback happened in 39, and then we have this callback print as well. So here we are notified about that. So you see how this callback thing happens. So let's get back to this. I'm going to get rid of this print statement as well as with this one. And here we are going to check a few things. So we say if error is equals to nil, it means our registration was successful and we have no errors. In that case, we are going to just create user in database. All right, so this is we're going to do later, but for now what we are more interested in is once our registration happens, we are going to see a user here. So let's just rerun our application and try to create a proper user. So I'm going to put username, let's say David, email it's going to be iOS devschool@gmail.com. Make sure you provide an email here that exists and you have an access to that email, because you are going to use email verification. So if user doesn't go and verify the email address, he's not going to be able to log in. And email verification again is provided by Firebase. It just checks if the email was verified or no, and it automatically sends an email verification to the specified email address. The city I'm going to put Nicosia. Where is my city? Date of birth, let's just put anything. It doesn't matter here because remember we are getting a current date here. Password, let's just put password and confirm password. And remember, right now we are not checking if these two passwords match, which we are going to do later as well. So let's click register and we print the callback. It means the registration happened and we were notified that it was completed. Now we don't know if it was successful or not because I'm not printing the error, I just print callback. So to check that, we can go to our Firebase, and simply by refreshing we can see that under our authentication we have a new user created which has an identifier, the email. A provider is the sign-in method. Basically we have all these different sign-in methods and we are have enabled only the email, so it shows that the user was signed in through email address. If it was a phone, it would show a phone or whatever other options you may choose to have. And the other thing we are interested in is this user ID, which is again, it's a unique ID for each user. So once this is successfully done, if we go to our user class here, let me just hide this bottom part. If we have no error, we can access this auth data, and this authentication data actually holds this unique ID that we can use in order to create our user object. But the first thing we want to do is we want to send a verification email to our user. So in order to do that, I'm going to access this auth data, and then I'm going to unwrap this. Since the error is nil, it means we do have an authentication data. And then I'm going to grab the user object, which is, this is a user object provided by Firebase. So it's not our user that we are creating, ours called F user, so we don't mix them up. And we can say send email verification, and then we have this completion block. So we just hit enter and it's called error, our variable name. So what this does is sends a verification email to that user, and I can just print here, let's say print auth email verification sent. And we can print the error in case if there was an error. So say localized description, which is basically what it means. Localized description is more, let's say, English error, because otherwise it might give you some crazy things that you may read and not understand. But when you use the localized description, it gives you more in English result. So now that we have our user sending the verification email, let's go to our Firebase, and I'm going to delete this user, because right now we cannot create the user with same email because it already exists. By the way, this is also done by Firebase. They are checking it and then notifying you if the user is already exist. So rerunning the code will actually allow us to test this verification email as well. So let's just register the same user. This I'm not going to put anything here, password and password. This information is not used, so what we are interested in is email and password. So let's register. It says auth email verification sent, and then we are printing the error, and it prints nil, so it means there were no errors at all. So now you can choose your email address, and you should receive the email from Firebase telling you that you have registered and you need to verify your email address.